Was really reflecting on that. And I thought, you know what better way to really reflect is to share that with everybody. So, this live is all about what this past decade has taught me. And I'm talking about from like 2010 to 2019. We are like a couple of days away from the end of this decade, moving into 2020. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge accomplishment. A lot of people who started 10 years ago are not here now. So what we are, and it is a really good thing to kind of look back on what we've done. Do you know what I'm saying? And what we've accomplished in that time. So with that, I just, as I was thinking about this, I was just kind of jotting down stuff, that got me to where I am, to who I am. And I think the biggest thing as far as like moving forward in your life, right, is knowing not only, where you come from, but what you've been through, right? Because that shapes who we are, how we choose to show up, how we choose to move forward in life. And not only was this decade monumental and huge for me, it was also a decade of my 30s. So I was like between 30 and I just turned 40 in July. So this past decade was completely my 30s, right? Hey everybody. So what I have seen overall, this decade really was a time for me to really become very comfortable in who I am and what I am and what I deliver. Like your 20s or the decade before, it was fun. Everything was good and popping and all this and that, but there was still a lot of insecurities. But in my 30s, in this past decade, I got to a point where I just became very, very comfortable with who I am. And so anyway, let's get into it. Hopefully, if you guys want to share, you can put it in the comments, you can shoot it over to me, or I challenge you just to make a list of what you have accomplished or what this past decade has taught you in life. So again, some of this stuff may seem like, okay, Crystal, that's old. But again, we talk about 10 years ago. So not in order, but I guess the main thing is being comfortable with myself. It was a decade where I think a lot of us came into the realization of who we are, especially Black people, who we are as Black people, the power and the magic that we have. Do you know what I'm saying? Like really empowering that. I think social media has completely helped with that because we were able to control what we saw and who we engaged with and so forth, right? So these past 10 years, was a coming into like, yeah, I know who I am. And I love being Black. I love everything about our race, about our culture. And I've definitely have embraced that. Right? So definitely that. Black is beautiful and who we are, like our history. There's still a lot of stuff that's been withheld, but we are like hungry now. Like we want to know the real. We're not going to be, given just the Kool-Aid and just think we're going to drink it. I learned the power of apologies. I have gone through some situations within this decade, things that have even happened, like, within my household. Things not necessarily where maybe I needed to apologize. I mean, definitely things I need to apologize, but situations that have happened and they just lingered on, right? And it was just such a weight for everybody. It was just such a weight. And it was, stuff that has happened that you didn't think that you could get past, right? Like, so once something is done, it's done. But just the I'm sorry, right? The acknowledgement of that apology, it cleared up the air. It just like removed a hovering spirit over everybody. So I learned in this decade, the power of an apology. So I encourage you guys that, if there's something that maybe you need to apologize for or need to have that apology, move forward and do that. It will change so much for you. I learned the power of giving flowers, right, to people while they're here, saying what they mean to you. And how I learned that is 2018, right, the beginning of 2018, my father passed. And it was a difficult time. It really was a difficult time. I think, it was even more so hard and difficult for my brother. It was just a different relationship. Still great, different relationship. But as I was in the hospital, my father was, really, really ill and he was passing away. What I realized is that I really had nothing to say. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean that in a way of I had said everything I needed to say to my father. my whole life. And he had said everything he needed to say to me my whole life. So there was no need of like, Dad, I want you to know I love you, and you've done this and you've been this type of father. And it was no need for it. Like when he came to, I mean, it was sad, there was pain there, you know what I'm saying? Because he was going away, and he knew it because when he came to, he saw all his family around him. So he's like, oh Lord. But when he came to, it was just an understanding in our eyes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're holding back tears and everything, but it was an understanding that everything that we needed to say, we've said it in our life. He's told me how much he's loved me, how proud he is, who I am, what I'm here for, right? My whole life. And because of that, I did the same with him. So it was no rushing up to his bed when he was passing to say, Dad, I want you to know this, I want you to know that. It was so powerful knowing that I had told my father who he was to me, right? While he was alive. So that when it was time for him to pass, he could just pass in peace. So if there's anybody you need to let them know, just let them know what they mean to you. So that if something was to happen, thank God, that I had the time to kind of talk to him, right? But there's people who are going to be taken away like that. And if you haven't had the opportunity to speak to them, to say what you need, it's going to tear you up. So use that. Also, this decade taught me the power of manifestation. Like, for real, like, the book came out, the whole thing on Netflix came out, The Secret. I'm going to tell you right now, that is real. Manifesting, understanding how much power you have with your mouth and your mind. Understanding that to the level of, faith without works is dead. And we just keep saying it, but no, for real. The works part is doing something about it. That doing something about it could be, hey, this is a thought that I'm thinking, and now I'm going to put this forth. I'm going to speak this into existence. And I'm going to go into that in another video about manifesting. My house, my marriage, my life is pure intentional thought and manifestation. And for those who think that manifestation doesn't work, you're absolutely right. Because you think that, that's why it doesn't work. So I'm just saying, manifestation is everything. Let's see. Love. Oh, so this year, this decade was a completely different love, right? I had my son. So I already had Christopher. Christopher is like 19. But I had Nicholas in 2011. So totally different parent. You know what I'm saying? Like I was in my 20s with Christopher. Things were great. You know what I'm saying? But how I am with Nicholas is a different type of parenting. Also a totally different relationship, right? Love this decade will have you doing some stupid things. Stupid. But at the same time, being open to that love had me experiencing things that I never thought that I could experience, right? With someone else, an outside love, right? And from that, I got married because I was open to a different love. So the power of love and being open to that. This may step on some toes, but if you guys are friends of mine or followers of mine, then you understand what I mean by this. And let me explain it if you don't. The Miss Independent, misconception. In our 20s, and I think it's just like our age group or whatever, we had, I'm a soldier and, I don't need a man and, all this and that. And that's cool. That's cool. It's cool to be built up, right? To understand your worth. But, the power of love. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is a misconception as a person that you don't need another person with you, not to complete you, but that of what they could bring. And I'm speaking specifically to the Miss Independent woman. It is out of order and it's out of line. And I get why we do it. We've been taught that, and there's a lot of power in that. But when you do that, you cut off the whole point and purpose that God may have had for you. He might have had someone for you or to help you or to get you to another level, whatever. But we all need each other. That's the whole point and purpose of why we are different. We need each other, right? So once I let that go, well, I'm gonna be honest, I never have been like that. Now I've been very independent, right? I can do for myself. I've achieved a lot on my own, but I wasn't to a point where it was like, oh, I don't need this person, I don't need that person. But I see a lot of us doing that. And I'm just saying, this decade has taught me to stop doing that. So if you're a female and you want to be with, females want to be with men want to be with women, and vice versa, and all in between. But you're never too independent for love to be open to it. So y'all can take that whatever you take it. It was my lesson that I learned. Let's see. Oh, so one thing about me, I learned that I was an introvert. I thought that I was like socially awkward, like for real. Like I like going out. I would go to parties or whatever, but I always found myself like in a corner observing, or I kind of didn't want to do like this networking thing. And especially I found this with like being in business, and you have to network. But I learned about being an introvert when I was just reading. So how I am, never independent for love. How I am is I can get up in front of a crowd, and I've done it before, and I can speak to, I don't know how many, 400 or 500 people. Not a problem. Where I kind of shy away from is then when I have to have that one-on-one conversation, because with me, I don't like empty conversation. So I'm not going to just come up to you and be like, oh, how's the weather? How's this and that? And because of that, because I couldn't do that small chit chat with people, I thought I was awkward, socially awkward. But I read this Huffington Post article, and it was about signs you're an introvert, and every one of those things was it. So I learned about me being an introvert, and when I accepted that about me, I was okay, right? So I could walk into that. So I could understand that, like, when I'm around a whole bunch of people, if I get missing for a day or two, I need to recharge, and that's okay because it's how I operate. Once I learned that, I was cool with it, right? And then I started telling people that this is how I am. So everyone knows me. I am not the best at answering the phone. I'm really not. But if you text me, I'm going to respond back. And the reason why I don't is because I am reserving my energy. I'm reserving it because I need to. So if you know me or you love me, then you'll understand that. And if you don't, then you won't. And that's okay too. But I learned that all through understanding what an introvert is. It's not shy. It's not socially awkward. It's just the way I operate. So that was a huge thing for me this decade, because it helped me kind of to step into that, learning what an introvert is and owning that. This decade taught me the power of reconnections. Okay, so best friend from high school. We been best friends, everything was great, and then we just kind of like veered off and just went in two totally different directions. But we had always said if we were getting married, we would call each other, and no matter what, we were going to be in each other's wedding. So Oris proposed to me, and I reached out to my girl, and the reconnection since then has filled a void I didn't even really realize was there. So I learned the power of reconnecting this decade. So if there's anyone that you were friends with before, maybe not with now, whatever, y'all have lost contact, try to reconnect. Try to understand what I'm talking about with the power of reconnection. And being in each other's life right now has helped us for things for this time. So God knew, because I might have needed her, and now she's here for those times. So the power of reconnections. Also the power of losses. Like, I have a really close friend. We were friends all the way through high school, all the way up until now, all the way into my marriage. And we're no longer. And, it teaches you some things about people. It teaches you some things about yourself. And you have to kind of be okay sometimes to just let it go. So the power of reconnection and the power of losses. I've already talked about the power of words. I completely learned that. I learned how to speak things into existence. I learned how to teach my children that. I learned how to, just send them a text every once in a while. Send my husband a text every once in a while just to keep people encouraged. Your words have so much meaning, not just for yourself, but for others. And you can speak things on their lives, both positive and negative. So you need to be careful with that. But I learned so much power was in that. And when you gain and understand how much power you have in your own mouth, the sky's the limit. It is absolutely the limit. And no one can do anything to you. No one can touch you because you have the power to command things. So I encourage you guys to really look into that. This decade, I've gone through some jobs, right? I mean, every job for me has been like, I'm not going to front, like, don't have a college degree, went to school for 1 year, and I'm not encouraging anyone to do or not to do. I have my own feelings around that. Got out of school, started working, and was like, boom, boom. Every job was progressing better and better, right? So I originally went to school to be a school teacher. And what was working for me is that I was having jobs that was making me more and more money, more than I would have made as a teacher. So I had no reason to go back to school, right? Still haven't gone back. I'm still doing really well without it. That's my journey. Y'all choose your own. But I will say this. Last year, it was right after my father passed. Like 2008. Yeah, it was after my father passed. I was at this new job. I had gotten it in November. Oh my God. And my supervisor was just horrible. I'm going to be honest. I don't like this. I like to learn lessons, but she was terrible. So much so, I mean, I went through the whole, losing my father and everything, and still killing it at work, right? Still getting good reviews, still doing all of that through grief. But it just got really bad where she wanted to keep extending my, probation. And I'm like, look, I'm way past that in my career. And so she was going to extend it again. And I just went back to my desk and I was like, you know what? No, I'm good. And I quit on the spot. I mean, it was one of the highest paying jobs I'd ever had, but I quit. I was like, bump that. It don't take you 6 months to know if I'm a good employee or not. And if that is, and that shows you what type of manager you are. Whatever. That's neither here or there. Right? With that, I'm used to, my whole philosophy has been, if I get the interview, oh, baby, I'm getting the job. That's just how it was for me. I didn't realize how blessed I was. And it's not that easy. Do you know what I'm saying? So I went from March, when I quit, to the November of that year without a job. And I didn't realize, and so I started doing little things like, I would do Instacart and Postmates and stuff like that, right? Just to kind of keep things going. I still had a car payment. Things were still good, So, yeah, same here. So I did that, right? And then I was like having to deliver. So it was time for me to go back to work. I was like, I need to get back to work. But I had to start then delivering food at lunchtime to organizations or jobs that I knew I'd applied for or that just was totally what I had been doing. That was hard. It was a hard, humbling experience. And what I learned in that was I had identified myself so much with my ability to get a job and my position that without it, I didn't even know who I was. Like God taught me something during that period. It humbled me to the point of realizing the blessing I had with being able to do that. So part of what I do with helping women or helping people with their brand is understanding who you are so deeply that when you go to a job, it's not I'm Crystal Ford, customer success manager at blah, blah, blah. It's no, I'm Crystal Ford partnering with this organization on my skills. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's a big difference because I can then take that thing and go on somewhere else. But I had to go through walking out of my job, completely changing the scope of how I was able to get a job to see that, you know what? I got to invest in me because I'm no longer Crystal can run in there and get a job like that. That person didn't even exist anymore. So then who was I? Do you know what I'm saying? And we can get into that another time. Like I can go deeper into that and how I made that, how I brought the do job on because I feel like I manifested that as well. So anyway, okay, let's see. Giving flowers, love and relationship, independent, being an introvert. I had to put my notes, y'all. Reconnections. Yeah. So also I really learned this year, which goes into the other one, as far as investing in yourself. It's okay to, even if it looks like to the outside world that you're being selfish, bump that. You know what you need. Like I heard Lisa Nichols, right? Like she's really great. If you don't know her or follow her, just listen to any of her stuff on YouTube. And she was talking about serving from your saucer, right? So like we are all people, we are the cup. And what you do is you have your cup and the saucer on top. Is that when people are asking things from you or getting things from you, you're not supposed to serve from your cup, right? Because you'll run out. You serve from your overflow. Like that's what you serve from. That's what you can do and that you can help people with. Because if you get depleted, then you can't help nobody. So I learned to invest in myself. I've invested in myself with my business, what I liked, understanding that, and knowing that I'm doing this because the return is going to be so much greater because I took the time to invest in myself. I had to do that because I'm a wife, because I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, and I'm a person that's in my family that I got to be on point. And it may be like you guys are like that too. I don't have that much of a what do you call it? Safety net. You know, like, well, I have Oris, you know what I'm saying? I have my mom's support, but if I go down, a lot of ish goes down. So I have to make sure that I'm built up in a way that I can do that. And you can only do that by investing in yourself. So I learned to do that. Another thing that goes back to your job and investing in yourself is I learned to charge my worth, right? Charge your worth and add tax. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody is going to believe in yourself. And even when you don't believe in yourself, go to someone who does and ask them to tell you about yourself, to build you up, right? So that when you step out in the world, you know your worth, whether you feel it or not. So I learned to do that. This decade taught me to listen, to learn how to stop talking, which I've been talking for a while, to stop talking and listen. And I learned that by hearing something with my children, right? And so I encourage you guys to do that. Your children come to you, or a friend comes to you, you know, especially if you're a person people come to and talk to. And with my kids now, when they come to me with something, I ask them 3 questions. I say, do you want my advice? Do you want me to help? Or do you want me to just listen? And a lot of times we don't do that with people. Me, you know, the role that I'm in work and corporate, the role that I do as a personal brand coach is always reactionary to solve a problem. So when you're coming and you're talking to me, just talking, my mind is going 1,000 miles an hour because I'm thinking, okay, are you asking me something? What should I be doing? I'm always strategizing. So if you know me personally, then you know. You can just come and talk to me and I'll just like, well, hey, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes people just need you to listen. They don't need your advice. They don't need your help. They just need you to give them your ear. So I learned that with my kids. I wish I could have been more like that with Christopher, but I'm definitely trying to be like that with Nicholas, right? And I encourage you guys to do the same. Learn to listen. Ask those 3 questions when a person comes to you or your children. Do you want me to help? Do you want my advice? Or you just want me to listen? And I guarantee you, things will be opened up more to you. And you'll get further. I learned to also, this decade taught me to accept the gifts that God gave me, right? I don't blow my horn. I don't like to brag or anything. And oftentimes I'm trying to shrink myself until you get to a point where it's like your friends are looking at you like, okay, like step out and do something. We see this in you, your parents or whoever's encouraging you. So I learned to accept the gifts that God gave me, to not discount that, because evidently I'm here to do that. And in that, you know, I've created multiple businesses, right? Stepped out on my own, done that. I've, you know, been a speaker, right? Asked to be like a headline speaker at different women events, different churches. I've learned that I was very creative, logos, websites, things like that. And giving advice, helping people, listening to them, encouraging them, giving them what I had growing up, right? Not everybody had that. My mom and my dad were the biggest advocates for me. My mom's still here. And I understand that a lot of people don't have that. And I want to be that because I know the benefit of having support. So anyway, also learn to stop and not live through my kids. So Christopher graduated this year from high school. Christopher is so talented. If y'all know him, he's just a kid. He's going to be something wonderful one day, right? He is wonderful now. But graduating, like getting through school or whatever, he never got to play basketball or football. Like things weren't quite right with his grades and all this and that. But he's amazing. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want Christopher to be the greatest athlete never seen, right? Because I'm living this life like this is what he's going to be. And then we got to like graduating and he didn't have enough of what he needed. And then at the last minute he could. And I was like, great, let's go. You graduate. And he was just like, okay. He was not excited like we were excited. Like back in the day, like we couldn't even wait to get our learner's permit and drive. Kids just aren't like that this day. And I couldn't understand that. And I was hurt that he didn't want to walk across the stage. And I'm like, boy, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for me. Do it all the mornings I got up and all this and that. And I realized that had nothing. If he didn't want that, maybe he wasn't mature enough to get it. But at the very minimum, that's not what meant something to him. He graduated, Crystal. He got his credentials. Like, what else? You wanting him to walk across that stage was more about me, wanting to take pictures to put online because I saw everybody else doing it. It had nothing really to do with him. It did, but it was like, I want to show off. My son is walking the stage, and I realized, boo, quit living through your child. If he's happy, be happy where he is. Guide him, but be happy where he is. And so I just learned to stop doing that. And it's very difficult, but that's what this decade has taught me. Yeah, put my expectations on him. Also, I learned about the weight of hate. I mean, there's some people, and this all goes back to apologies and accepting apologies and so forth, and giving apologies. But there's been some people that I have been carrying like just straight up hate. And there's not a lot of people that I beef with or whatever, but they've done things that have hurt me so to my core that I was carrying around hate. And I realized it takes so much freaking effort to hate somebody, to continuously hate somebody. Because to do that, you have to keep remembering what they did to you, right? You have to keep playing that over and over and over. And it was just exhausting. So sometimes you could just let it go. And I didn't really understand the whole thing of like forgiving them because, you should, it helps you. Because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but that's not real forgiveness because I'm just doing that for my gain. Bump all that. Hating someone puts so much weight on you, so much strain on you. It's ridiculous. It's stress. It's all of that. And also when you hate somebody, 9 times out of 10, they either don't know or they don't care. So it's just wasted energy. Completely wasted energy. Let it go. This is a real deep one. I learned this decade how to love children who were not mine. Now, if you guys know me, I'm not a children person. I'm just not a kids person. They say stuff, real slick at the mouth, and I just don't, that's not my thing. But I love my children. I love my kids. But, I'm married or has had children. And even before that. And it was a matter of teaching myself how to open myself up and love a child that was not mine. Now, it may just be me, and that might have just been my journey, but I love them. I love them as if they are mine. But it was a maturing for me. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't going to take away anything, or the love of my children, or the love from my spouse. It wasn't going to do anything by just opening myself up and learning how to love children that were not mine. Also, and I'm wrapping it up, right? Because I want to keep this under 30 minutes. Being myself at work. So a lot of us are still in corporate, right? We have jobs and entrepreneurship and all that, and that's wonderful. But being myself at work and what that meant. So that meant no longer whitewashing anything. No longer, and I'm not saying like talking like this, and I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to front. Like we still have our white voice that we put on and we call it professional. But I learned how to be me and be okay with that and understand I am professional as I am. I learned to when I show up, I just show up as Crystal, like straight up. In interviews, straight up. I'm not putting on for anybody. Like they hired me to do a job based off my credentials and how I presented myself. And I'm going to do just that. And it's an injustice to go somewhere and try to be somebody else or talk like somebody else or lessen your blackness or your flavor for somebody else. I'm not saying go in there and be unprofessional by, being stereotypical. Be you. Understand what professionalism is, but be you. So I learned how to be myself at work. And through that, I'm so comfortable and I've gotten so much further, right? Because I don't have to pretend anything. They could come to my house and I'm going to be the same Crystal that I was at my desk. And that's very important because you want to not be living different lives. That's how stress comes. You're one way at work. You're one way at home. You're one way in your business. No, boo. Line that up and let people be comfortable with you being you. Not stop adjusting to everybody else, right? Learn about hot yoga. Yoga's really cool. I thought growing up that yoga was like, I always saw like white women do it. Honestly, skinny white women. And I was like, it's just not for me, and I don't want to look like that. Honey, I went to Charlotte with my girlfriends and they surprised us. She surprised me by going to hot yoga. Now, once I got over the sweating, I'm cool. but it is the most therapeutic thing ever. Now I know there's some kind of, I can't even say the word. There's some wordings out, some things about it like being spiritual and you got to watch out and all this and that. I get that. Pray yourself up, okay? Like I ain't say going in there and be worshiping nothing else. My intention was not that. It just became therapy for me. And the way it snatches our bodies as Black women, now I need to go back and get back on schedule, but I'm telling you, try it. Try it. Learn about starting over and being okay with that. I started over a lot within this decade. And this is not necessarily about myself, but I know a lot of people like this, and I've encouraged them with that. I learned, because there's so many businesses popping up, that having a felony is really the gateway to entrepreneurship. It's not the end all. A lot of our Black men have felonies. Not on, yes, they did things wrong, but that was years ago, and it's carrying on with them. And now they have this hovering over them that they can't step in to do whatever. And I saw this meme the other day, and it said, they may deny you the job because you're a felony, but it cannot deny you an LLC. So I encourage anybody out there that's got a record to bump that. You don't even got to go to corporate. Do your own thing. Start a business, because it cannot take that away from you. Yeah. So I know it was all over the place. And I'm still like around 30 minutes. But that is what this decade taught me. This decade was my 30s. I'm now 40. I'm looking forward to the next decade, what my 40s are going to teach me. But most of all, if I had to wrap everything that I learned, this decade taught me to be comfortable in who I am. And I'm all right with that. I'm all right if you guys don't like that. I'm all right if you love that. Whatever, I'm comfortable in who I am. So the challenge here is I challenge you guys to take a moment to write down everything that you learned this decade, what this decade taught you in life. It could be, one thing that helped me was I looked all the way back through my pictures, because, my pictures went all the way back, and they can help trigger things for you. But think about the tragedies you've been through, the triumphs you've had, the people you've met, the people you've lost, the jobs you had, whatever. What did it teach you? Because everything we go through is to teach us, right? So that we now can take that and then grow more in the next decade. So I challenge you guys to do that. Share it if you want to share it, but you do it to reflect on it so you can understand who you are now. And that's the best, is understanding who you are, owning that, so that when you present yourself to the world, it is you authentically. So that is what this past decade taught me. I look forward to seeing the next decade. And I thank you guys so very much for joining. And I will talk to you really soon. Peace.